There was one thing nobody touched in my house when I was growing up: the TV remote during the evening news. It all looked exhausting. Half an hour of adults sounding angry at each other in very official Malayalam. Politics to me felt like a homework I didn't even want to look at. And then I watched Sandesham. Suddenly, all those loud men became funny. The same political language that sounded distant on television now sounded familiar, ridiculous, and intimate. I laughed first because the film was funny, but much later I realized something else had happened too. The film had quietly decided where I would stand while looking at politics. Not beside the party workers or any movements, but inside Raghavan Nayar's house. That changes everything. Like a lot of Malayalis, my political vocabulary was shaped by Sandesham before I was old enough to know it was shaping me. We quoted it casually, used it to mock political activists of every kind. Somewhere along the way, the film stopped being just a comedy and became common sense. Panchavadi Palam by K.G. George came to me much later, and it arrived differently. It did not carry the same mainstream aura like Sandesham had. People admired it deeply, but they did not live inside it the same way. I felt Panchavadi Palam became a respected political satire, while Sandesham became a political instinct. That difference kept bothering me. Because both films are angry, both films are hilarious, both films understand how politics slowly turns into performance. So, why did one become a worldview while the other remained a brilliant film people appreciated from a distance? I think the answer begins with a very simple screenplay question. Who does the film ask us to become? Not who the story is about, but who we emotionally become while watching it. A good screenplay doesn't just give us information, it gives us position. It quietly decides whose disappointment feels personal to us, which humiliation stays after the scene ends, which fear enters our body. Film scholar Murray Smith calls it alignment. The way cinema places us inside somebody else's emotional reality until, for a few hours, their experience starts feeling like our own. Which means choosing a protagonist is never just structure, it is ideology. Because the protagonist decides where the audience stands while the world of the film unfolds. And Sandesham places us very carefully. Raghavan Nayar is not a political man. He is a retired railway station master who spent most of his life away from home, earning, saving, and living carefully for his family. He returns wanting something beautifully ordinary.
ഞാനേ നല്ല നിമ്മതിയായിട്ട് ഇനിയുള്ള കാലം കഴിയാൻ വന്നതാ. മക്കളെ കുറ്റം പറഞ്ഞ് നീ എന്റെ നിമ്മതി കെടുത്താതെ.
Nimmadi. That's all. Not power, ideology, or revolution. Just peace. But he walks into a house where both his sons have turned politics into permanent occupation. One screams from the left, the other from the right. But both survive using the same currency, their father's labor. And the film is smart enough not to make Raghavan Nayar reject them immediately.
അവര് പറയുന്നൊന്നും മനസ്സിലാക്കാനുള്ള അറിവ് നിനക്കില്ല. അതന്നെ എനിക്കും അതില്ലെന്ന് കൂട്ടിക്കോ.
He likes the confidence, language, and the seriousness of their conversations. Like many fathers from his generation, he mistakes loud political conviction for intelligence. His sons sound educated in ways he never got the chance to be. Sandesham understands middle-class households with painful accuracy. Common men who spend their life chasing stability often develop respect towards anything that sounds intellectual, even when they don't fully understand it. Somewhere inside that confusion sits pride too.
അച്ഛാ അതോടെ KRP എന്നുള്ള പേര് നോർത്ത് ഇന്ത്യ വരെ ഫേമസ് ആവും.
അവിടെയാ
പിന്നെ
So the film begins with a belief, and then it slowly dismantles that belief scene by scene. Sandesham mocks a very particular kind of politics. Politics where ideology is memorized rather than understood. Ideology that is repeated loudly instead of applied meaningfully. The film shows governing parties using the police system to display power. Officers become useful or disposable depending on political loyalty. Then governments change and suddenly the hunter becomes a hunted. The same machinery continues under different flags. Transfers become revenge, suspension becomes warning, public support becomes something parties chase through performance rather than service. Meanwhile, Prabhakaran and Prakashan drift deeper into irresponsibility while continuing to speak the language of revolution and social change. And Raghavan Nair pays the price for all of it. Gradually, money disappears from Raghavan Nair's life, then dignity, and then peace. As we watch the movie, politics slowly changes shape in our eyes too. It no longer feels like collective responsibility. It begins feeling like a noise created by people who want importance without accountability. That's the brilliance of Sandesham. It doesn't convince us through political theory. It convinces us emotionally through exhaustion. By the time that final speech arrives, we have already lived inside Raghavan Nair's tiredness long enough for the conclusion to feel emotionally earned. And the film leaves behind a very seductive feeling: withdrawal. Maybe politics has become too dirty for ordinary people. Maybe survival itself is hard enough. And we can completely understand why that feeling connected so deeply with the Malayali majority.
ആദ്യം സ്വയം നന്നാകണം, പിന്നെ വീട്, എന്നിട്ട് വേണം നാട് നന്നാക്കാൻ.
Now, let me tell you who we are in Panchavadi Palam. We are almost nobody. KG George doesn't give us a traditional protagonist in his film. No single person's journey drives the whole film. Instead, George gives us a witness, Kathavarayan, played by a young Srinivasan. Kathavarayan enters the film with almost nothing. No stable home, no power, no social responsibility protecting him from the world. He moves through on a wooden cart near the bridge, surviving at the edge of public spaces. Politicians barely notice him. Bureaucrats move him around like furniture whenever necessary. He exists close enough to power to witness it, but never close enough to matter to it. And still, he believes in the system. The man genuinely believes elected leaders care about people like him.
ആഴ്ചയിൽ ഒരു പ്രസംഗങ്ങളും കേട്ടില്ലെങ്കിൽ എന്റെ ശരീരത്തിന് വല്ലാത്ത തളർച്ചയും കൈകാലുകൾക്ക് കഴപ്പും തോന്നും.
അതൊരു വല്ലാത്ത അസുഖമാണല്ലോടാ കാത്തവരായ.
മന്ത്രിമാരുടെ പ്രസംഗം കേൾക്കുന്നത് എനിക്ക് ജീവൻ ടോൺ കഴിക്കുന്നത് പോലെയാ.
Kathavarayan finds democracy meaningful even in its theatrical form. The story unfolds in a fictional village of Airavadakuri Panchayat. The Panchayat decides to demolish and rebuild a perfectly functional bridge named Panchavadi Palam because rebuilding it creates opportunity. Contracts, tenders, commission, everybody understands the scam immediately, including the people, the public servants, the opposition, even us, the spectators. That's the joke. Nothing is hidden there. Panchavadi Palam shows everything we recognize from real politics, laid out with almost uncomfortable familiarity. Ministers who only show their faces during loud inaugurations. Contractors who exist purely to move public money into private hands. MLA poaching, resort politics, fake rallies filled with paid crowds, holy men making their appearance in democratic spaces for legitimacy, communal tensions manufactured on demand, and ordinary people quietly helping powerful men manufacture the appearance of public consent. The opposition protests the bridge project until they realize they can also profit from it. Panchavadi Palam mocks the very machinery through which public mandate makes no sense and public money disappears into private hands. And what makes the film frightening is how familiar everything still feels today. The movie presents all of this as routine administration as witnessed by Kathavarayan. That's important. He watches. Wrong people in power survive not just because all politicians are dishonest, but because ordinary people slowly get trained to treat dishonesty as background noise. Even Karthavarayan adjusts in the movie.
മുൻമന്ത്രിയുടെ പ്രസംഗം സാരല്ല, ഉണ്ണിമേരിയുടെ നൃത്തം കലക്കും. സിനിമയിലെ പോലെ തന്നെ ആയിരിക്കും ജീവനോടെ.
He laughs, cheers during rallies, moves aside when instructed, and finds entertainment inside the performance.
ഈ യോഗത്തിന് ശേഷം 2 കലോത്സവത്തിൽ 8 കല്ലിടൽ, 12 നാടകമൊരുക്കൽ, 2 ദർശനങ്ങൾ, 3 കല്യാണങ്ങൾ, 2 റീത്ത് സമർപ്പിക്കൽ തുടങ്ങിയവയിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കേണ്ടതായിട്ടുള്ളതുകൊണ്ട് നിങ്ങളോടൊന്ന് ചേർന്ന് സമയം ചെലവഴിക്കാൻ എനിക്ക് കഴിയുന്നില്ല.
And then comes the ending. The bridge collapses during the inauguration. The privileged protect themselves. And then KG George gives us one of the saddest images in Malayalam cinema. Karthavarayan's cart floating on the river. That's it. No speech explaining the tragedy, no emotional manipulation demanding tears. Just the quiet understanding that the one man who trusted the system most completely was the least protected by it. Sandesam makes us afraid of politics entering the home, while Panchavadi Palam makes us feel afraid of what happens when ordinary people abandon politics completely. For Raghavan Nair, politics took away his savings and interrupts a peaceful retirement. For Karthavarayan, politics took away his part home and then his life itself. Politics may seem hopeless, but it is unavoidable. The unprivileged like Karthavarayan do not get the luxury of disengagement. System failure is never abstract for them. A collapsed bridge, a broken public hospital, contaminated water, missing welfare funds. These are not debates happening safely on television for them. They become physical condition people are forced to live inside. Both these screenplays deserve to be studied so seriously as a student of cinema. A worldview is not built through speeches, it is built through perspective. Through whose eyes we enter the story, whose suffering feels immediate, whose life gets framed as valuable enough to protect. Sandesham became part of Kerala's political consciousness because most viewers recognize themselves inside Raghavan Nair's exhaustion. Panchavadi Palam asks something much harder from us. To recognize the people we usually fail to become in stories. The people standing outside the room. The people who disappear first when system fails. That is less comforting and maybe more necessary. Because once you understand where a film places you emotionally, you begin noticing something else too. Every story is quietly answering a moral question. Not what is right, but whose pain counts enough for you to notice.